Hey family, it's Tasha MAMABEAR Prepping. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel where we just talk about emergency preparedness. We talk about really different things that could happen in our area, our family, things we do to prepare for that. And hopefully that helps you with you and your journey as far as self-sufficiency and being ready for different things that could happen. Okay, so let's get into it. Get your drink, pull up. We're going to talk about another list, another critical items, must-have items, right? We're getting to a point where this channel is probably a wide variety of people who have been doing this for decades. You have folks that maybe just started, right? And so you're going to hear all types of different things you should get, whatever. Really depends on your situation, where your family is. But there's kind of like tried and true things that like are important no matter what, will come in handy. You will need them. And this is kind of just a mosh posh. I don't even know if that's right. Mosh posh. Whatever. Anyway, this is just a thrown together list of those things. I came up with 27 items. I mean, I suppose I could have came up with 3 more just to make it even 30, but I didn't. It's 27. And so without further ado, let's just jump into it. So in this no order, okay? So just first thing I have is antibiotics. So if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I am affiliated with JASE Case, where you're able to fill out a form and order, antibiotics, enough for a year. They don't expire for a year. And so you have enough, it's not enough for a year. It's 5 types of medicines that are antibiotics that you can buy, and then you have a backup of antibiotics. If something happens, you would continue to go to the doctor, whatever. These are your backup antibiotics. You can use my code and get $10 off. And this needs to be something that is a priority for you, okay? Medicine, we talk in general a lot on this channel. And if you are in the market and haven't gotten your backup case of antibiotics, please check out the links in my description box below. So you can check it out for yourself. Okay, next thing I have is ammo. Now, ammo, obviously, I don't have weapons listed on this list. It's just a no-brainer. Obviously, you need those. But ammo. Excuse me. That is something that you should be buying on a regular basis. And to me, it's one of those items that you don't stop stockpiling. You just continue to, ever so often, grab a couple boxes and continue to just stockpile that. Okay, you're going to need that. All right, and you're not gonna regret ever buying that. Okay, so get that while you can, especially because if we go into a national conflict, right, a foreign conflict, on a national level, they'll just shut down all the places that normal folks like you and I go and get our ammo. We won't be able to get it, right? And all those companies that make ammo, they will then be dictated whatever, but they'll be told, hey, you now make ammo for the country, right? For this conflict, for this war, and not able to sell it to the public. So there is going to be a time where we can't get this, and we've already gone through ebbs and flows where weren't able to even get it in general. Like there were shortages going on. Next thing I have is coffee. This is a no-brainer. A lot of people don't drink coffee, but a lot of people do, and it's a huge bartering item. Coffee will always make my list. So coffee. Next one I have is liquor. Again, this is one that always makes my list. I use liquor for so many things. Obviously, we drink it. 2, it's a great bartering item. But 3, the biggest way that I use it personally is for medicinal purposes, right? For making tinctures, things like that. And there's other medical ways, disinfection, all different types of ways that you can use liquor. It can be burned as a fuel for a cook stove, whatever the case may be. So liquor, super important. Next thing I have is wheat. Now I could have put flour on here. I could have put some other things, right? But I think it's important to stockpile whole ingredients, and I think it's important to stockpile wheat berries, different varying types of wheat, so that you can then get your mill grinder, and then you're able to make your own stuff. And it's a little bit more self-sufficiency as far as your level of what you can do. Now, can you stockpile flour? Absolutely. It can go bad, though. It's not a forever food. But I know folks that have kept it for years and years and years and still used it, many years later, okay? So part of that is how you keep it and all of that stuff. How much has it been compromised? All that good stuff. But to me, having wheat berries and wheat in a whole form is an amazing must-have critical prep, okay? Next thing I have is yeast. Now, is there recipes where you don't have to use yeast? Yes. Can you make yeast? Yes. I just think that it's much easier to just buy packets of yeast, instant yeast, freeze, get your yeast and keep it. You can keep it in the freezer. There's people that, you know, vac seal it to make it last longer, whatever the case may be. Yeast, because we're going to be making tons of bread, tons of that type of food by hand, and so you need yeast to make bread. Okay, you don't have to, obviously. I just said there's recipes without it, but in my opinion, it's a must-have. Sugar is the next thing on here. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Sugar will last forever if it is kept right. Bartering item, great for flavoring foods, flavoring your coffee, whatever it is. It's a must-have. You go through it. Sugar is really important with food preservation stuff too, so it's a must. Next thing I have is salt. Absolutely have to have salt. Once we go to a place where you're buying everything that's preservative filled, has salt, high levels of sodium, all this stuff, and then you go to a world where there's a lot of whole foods, there's actual meals being made from whole foods, and those levels of sodium and levels of salt are not as high. And so if you don't have that to be able to make sure that your body still has it, that's not going to be good. And I can't even stress how important salt would be in a bartering situation. Okay. Number 9 thing I have is meds. This is like over-the-counter meds, right? Think about your body, head to toe, different things that could happen, and get your over-the-counter meds. Anything you can get, and you're getting these for babies, toddlers, infants, little kids. You're getting this for elderly. You're getting this for pets, livestock, everybody across the board. All the over-the-counter things. Think about the body parts: your ears, your eyes, your nose, your teeth, your throat. You get a sickness, your headaches, your arms, you break something, like all the things that you need to feel better in that moment that have to do with over-counter medicine that you can buy right now. Okay. Next thing I have is non-lethal weapons. So I have this on my list because I think that it's very, very important. You know, a lot of preppers, a lot of prepper channels, we talk a lot about, not me so much, because there's some certain things that I just don't choose to talk about over here. Does not mean we don't do it though. And so it's important, weapons, but non-lethal stuff is very, very important to have, right? So your tasers, your whatever is legal in your state, get it, right? It could be knuckle rings, it could be knives, it could be whatever. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on of all types. I've done videos on non-lethal weapons, right? To give you ideas. Maybe I'll try to find that and link it in the description box below, but ideas for non-lethal weapons. So think about what would work for you, because a lot of people, either they don't like weapons, right? Real ones, lethal weapons. And so they want another option. Some people want a different option for children and for young adults, right? They're not willing to just put, you know, a weapon in their hand and say, use this, right? So what else do you have that you would be able to use for defense of your home and your family? Okay, next thing I have is a generator. So I'm not going to tell you what to do, but good to have generators across the board. I mean, this could be a Generac on your house. This could be the Tesla wall. This could be solar generators, all types of solar generators on the market. We have several. We love them. Absolutely must. You can get gas generators, tri-fuel generators. I mean, you name it, there's all types of stuff. It's up to you and what you think is going to work for you. I'm not a fan of gas and diesel type generators just because of the noise level. But I am a fan of solar, but that has its downfalls as well. Obviously, if there's no sun outside or we're in a situation where we're stuck indoors, that's not going to work, right? But Generac, there's some bigger stuff that you can actually connect to your house. I'm a fan of that, but I'm almost not a fan of that because it does put a bullseye on you. You know, a whole neighborhood is out, and then there's like maybe 2 houses that have power because they have a Generac, and it does put maybe a little bit of a bullseye on you because you guys have power. And at first, not a big deal, but if you go a week, 2 weeks, and everybody doesn't have anything, and you're just living life over there with power that everybody can see, that's a little hard to swallow, and that brings the crazy outs and it makes you a target. So I'm again not going to tell you what to do, but having some sort of generator will make things easier when you go into a situation where there's no power. Okay, even if it's for a short period of time. Next thing I have is radios, any type of way to receive information. You know, not necessarily do you need some kind of ham radio and ham license to be able to learn how to talk and communicate with people back and forth. I mean, that is amazing. But the average family just needs an AM, FM radio to be able to get information, to receive information, to hear information, right? And so, and you need this in all different ways. You need this in a backup way. Maybe it takes batteries, maybe it's solar powered, maybe it's crank. There's several different products on the market. Maybe I'll link a couple in the description box so you guys can just see a couple of them, but very, very good to get, not very expensive. And you need to make sure that you have some of these in your Faraday cages and not just out and about in a drawer, okay? So make sure that you're throwing some of this so that it's safer. Next thing I have is cold weather gear. So gloves, jackets, beanies, scarves, extra heavy duty, you know, whatever, just the pants, the jackets, flannels, you know, pocket warmers that you can put in your pockets, whatever it is, all the cold weather gear stuff, ear muffs, whatever. You know, if we go, first of all, there's the part of the earth is cooling down, and so there's parts of the world that are getting much, much colder. We already know that weather's an issue, weather's a problem. You'll hear that the earth is warming up, it's warming up, it's warming up, but we don't often talk about the parts that are actually cooling down. If something happens, a foreign event, a world-ending event, you know, nuclear stuff, nuclear winter is a real thing. And so it will get very, very cold, well below zero type of conditions. And although folks are like, well, we live through those, but do you live through those all the time, consistent level? Okay, that's totally different, okay? And yes, those that live in places that are like that, Alaska, that type of thing, yes, will you guys already be acclimated and much more, I guess, ready to deal with that than the average person? Yes, you will. But just something to think about, right? So cold weather gear. Next thing I have is trash bags. Can't go wrong with trash bags. I mean, if I was doing a list of just basic home maintenance things, basic prepper list things that like are must-haves that have to do with kind of like home maintenance and just basic preparedness items, trash bags will always make the list because they're needed on so many levels. They can be used for multiple things. I've always said that I was going to do a video on the multiple ways you could use trash bags. I still haven't done that video because there is literally just 1,000 ways that a plastic trash bag can be used. And with the sizes and the difference of them, just amazing product. Next thing I have on here is tape slash, what do I have? Oh, tape slash tarps. Tarps is a must-have. You know, a storm comes through, windows break, roofs leak, things happen that you need to be able to put up a tarp. We use tarps for all types of stuff, covering stuff. We put tarps down if we're putting down something that we don't want to be directly on the ground, like it's something we want to scoop, like a load of dirt or a load of bark or whatever. Covering different things, like I said earlier, that break and are leaking or need an extra little piece of, you know, barrier of some sort. Tarps. Not to mention shelter capabilities. I mean, just amazing. And to me, in my opinion, you can't have too many tarps, okay? Next thing I have is pet food. We talk about this quite a bit. This usually makes most lists. And we've gone through ebbs and flows of this being a shortage and not being able to get this. So pet food, did the pet video yesterday. Obviously not a lot of views. You know, a lot of people, it's like you ask me for different stuff, but it's not everybody's cup of tea, or people just don't care to see it, okay? But if you have animals and you wanted to kind of know different things for getting your pets, make sure you check out yesterday's video. Next thing I have is baby items. So not necessarily food, yes, but food, water, meds, obviously for babies, but think about all the things that a baby requires and then stockpiling those things, right? If I had a baby, had a young one, had a baby on the way, had anybody in my family with a baby on the way, anybody in my family that I think has the capability of having a baby, I'm stockpiling that to the roof, right? Make sure that you have those extra things, those diapers, those wipes, those diaper rash, the things that you just remember having an infant that you used all the time, right? And having those extra things, having extra bottles, nipples, all of that stuff, super, super important because, you know, you take it for granted, right? That, or you just go through life and you start to forget like what you kind of had or used. So take the time to kind of think that through. Teething stuff, I mean, you name it. There's a lot of different stuff that was helpful when you were raising little ones that it might behoove you to have that stuff now, especially in a nasty situation. Somebody has a baby and, you know, how are you helping them get through that with what you might have, okay? Next thing I have is, I cannot read my, food preservation items. See, I can't even read my own writing, you guys. This is anything. This is the jar sealers. There's tons of stuff on the market for jar sealers. This is the jars themselves. This is the canners. This is the backup canner. This is water bather. This is all the different things, right? Lids, everything. Making sure that you have a good stock of that. Now, everything can be reused, but you need to think about that in the future. Like lids, I don't know about you, but I know that there's lids out there that are authorized to be reused. But I don't know about you, but I'm the worst with taking lids off. They're always damaged. They're always dented. They're always just nasty. And so I'm always throwing mine away. So I'm actually have never used actual plastic reusable, you know, lids. So I'm probably going to order some of those and just see how they work out. But I've never been a fan. I've always done the regular ones. But I need to think about the future, because although I have a ton of lids stockpiled, you know, you think about long term, the long game. Eventually, you know, if you ran out of those, what would you do, right? Okay, so next thing I have is camping gear. We've discussed this before. I think the last time I did a list, I said camping gear. When something crazy happens, there's certain things that fly off the shelf. Your fuels go, your water goes, your food goes, your camping items go, right? Because people realize maybe they don't have power or something's going on, and they're like, okay, I need the little green propane tanks, and I need, you know, a camp stove, and I need maybe some sleeping bags, and they need that camping gear, because that stuff is helpful, right? Those fire starters, those different things that you would get to go camping, they realize become very, very useful, right? Lanterns, flashlights, all the things. Okay, so camping gear, get it, must have. And if you've never gone camping, you probably should do that. It'll be really fun. Take your family. But it gives you a sense of how you would live with no power in a small, obviously, setting, in a nice, probably nicer than SHTF, obviously, setting, but still gives you an idea of what your capabilities are, what you know how to do and not do. Lighting the fire seems so basic, but something as simple as that, okay? Next thing I have is pest control. Must. Have to have this. I don't care. You know, I'm pretty big on chemicals now, right? We're like I said, we're looking at stuff with chemicals. I do not care though when it comes to pesticides, when it comes to killing critters. I'm a huge fan of killing stuff, okay? And maybe that makes me lose some subscribers. I do not know, but I do not like seeing ants. I do not like seeing tons of spiders. I'm not one that wants to destroy the whole ecosystem, right? If I see stuff, I'll leave it alone. You leave me alone, I leave you alone. But don't be trying to come into my house. These big ant, you know, colonies that want to move from place to place. Don't get too close to my house, or I'm going to take you out, right? So I do not like pests, mice and mouse and rat, you know, traps, whatever it is that you need. Everybody, think about this on the SHTF. Everybody is trying to find food. Everything, every living thing is trying to find food, water, right? And survive. And that goes for the insects too, okay? So they're going to be out in full force trying to find food, trying to survive. And so you have to have a way to protect your storage, protect your food, because they're going to come in full force once they start like really starving. Next thing I have is hand tools. And let me just back up a little bit. Some people would be like, well, I've never had a pest problem, you know, where I'm at, how I have my food, whatever. But I'm telling you, it's a different thing. It's just like humans. Once they're starving and on that level of starvation, the whole game changes, right? You have law-abiding citizens that are going to be doing dangerous things, drastic things. And it's no different than animals. That's why, you know, we talk about feral cats and dogs later, trying to take over, and that they're not going to be like, oh, look at the neighbors, somebody lost a cat. No, because those cats and dogs are going to band up and be feral and be dangerous. And so it's no different from insects. They're going to be trying to take over stuff, find food, and maybe going into places that they didn't normally go into because they had found food, okay? All right, so next thing is hand tools. This could be garden tools. This could be home tools. Think about all the tools you use on a regular basis, a drill, you know, whatever, and get all the hand tools for that, right? Think about the options that you have that are plug-in or take a gas or electric or have an electric battery or whatever. And then think about, okay, how would you do that job that item, that tool does for you, but in a hand tool type of way. So getting those things, getting those old school tools, those matter. Think about Great Depression. Go back and look at old school tools that they use, old school tools that they use for gardening, for home improvement, for defense, for whatever. But go back and take a look at what, you know, was helpful back then, and get those things in a hand tool way, because we're very spoiled, right? Everybody's very spoiled in the technology and the different things that we have now and the fancy stuff we have now. And then something happens, we have no power, we have no way to use these things. And if you haven't gotten your backup stuff, it's going to be hard. Take wood for example. You might even have a wood stove in your house, but that doesn't mean that you've ever chopped a piece of wood in your life, right? And so maybe I'm talking to you, but you have folks that have wood and they'll just buy it, right? They buy their cords of wood. They're not chopping it themselves. They're not doing that. And so you might not have those tools. You might not have an axe. You might not have those wood chopping things that make that a lot easier. You might not have those tools, those things that are needed to do that. So that's just an example of thinking it through, of hand tools that you think that you would need. And this could be kitchen stuff, right? You got a lot of electrical stuff, a lot of stuff like that. Maybe takes batteries. Well, how would you use that item, or how could you get that item that is not ran by batteries or plug-in or any of that stuff? How do you get that hand tool? It's like a mill grain. I have an electric mill grain, right? But I also have hand mill grains. You have to get grain mills. You have to get objects and things that you use on a regular basis in a hand tool type of way, okay? All right, next thing I have is water. You know, water, food, meds always is on my mind, but I decided to put water specifically on here because it's so important. You know, we have droughts in large areas. We're literally running out of water in other areas. You know, we're in a world where across the board, people can drink water, use water, water their stuff, water their garden. There's not a lot of restrictions. There's not a lot of people saying, well, you're using a lot of water. There's locations, there's places, there's moments where that stuff is being put out, but that will be the norm as we move forward and start to run out of water. You know, it's crazy. You know, it's crazy. It's you know, my sister works at Walmart, and she's like, it's crazy how fast the water goes right now. And they have tons of water in the back, whatever. They just bring out more. But she's like, it gets hot. As soon as it gets hot here, 80s, 90s, the water is flying off the shelves. And I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, because it's hot. But then I'm like, man, I mean, there's just so many people that depend on bottled water, that don't have filters at home, do not drink the tap water, yada, yada, yada. And one, it's not safe. And two, you can't be dependent that is going to be available for you to just go and get from a store forever. And so you need to stockpile it. You need to keep it. You need to think about that. You need to think about how you're going to get water in the future. I mean, all of that stuff really, really matters. And so you got to think it through now. And I've done whole series on water. So, you know, go through the playlist. I think it's just called Water Preparedness. And you can check out all my videos on water, storing water, all of that stuff, okay? Next thing I have is medical supplies. This is all the things. Blood pressure cuffs, an oximeter, being able to fix a broken arm, a suture kit, being able to, you know, stitch somebody up, all the bandages, all different sizes. I cannot stress how many bandages you need. If you've ever gone through any kind of event, just even some kind of simple event, you go through bandages and band-aids a lot, okay? And you have to have different sizes for different things, right? So get your medicines, get your medical supplies, get your creams, get your everything you need. Watch all the videos to get your ideas, and stockpile your mini hospital. You've got to do it. The birds are going crazy outside. The next thing I have is vitamins. You might say, okay, Tasha, you talked about antibiotics already, you talked about over-the-counter meds. Isn't vitamins just kind of chopped up in there? No, it's separate, right? You've got to have your vitamins. I can't stress this enough. Do not get gummy vitamins, get actual vitamins, and really be thinking about vitamins, also over-the-counter vitamins, but how do you get those vitamins and those nutrients into your body through other things? Learn your foods, learn your fruits, vegetables, different things, what vitamins are in certain foods, right? So that you know and you can maintain your vitamin levels, but stockpile vitamins. So many good vitamins to get, okay? It's not a number. Next thing I have is CBR gear, right? Your gas mask, your biosuit, your your gloves, your filters for that. I mean, it's just super important that you get all that so that each member of your family is outfitted for if we run into some sort of nuclear conflict with some enemies. Next thing I have is emergency toilet. You know, I could talk about the different areas that you need to, I guess, concentrate on. I've done several videos where I just talk about, hey, here's the areas to think about when it comes to no power. And kind of the toilet area is kind of one of those areas. It is super important if you've never had an issue, a problem with your house where you were not able to fix your toilet, people were not able to go to the restroom, and it wasn't easy. I mean, imagine if something happens and you can't just call an emergency plumber to fix it, or you can't just go to the hotel for the night because, you know, while you wait to have it fixed, right? Like, you have to live in your home, and what do? And this is no different than SHTF, because you're not going to be able to just run to a hotel, right? And so it becomes, how do you ensure that your family, in the most comfortable way possible, can still go to the bathroom, relieve themselves? How do you get rid of that? You know, all the little things you need to make that be as pleasant as possible when you're not doing that, you know, in your toilet. Can you do that in your toilet? Is there different things you can do? But it takes water. It takes a lot of extra resources. And so you want to know what your options are and think that through with what works for you and your family, okay? And then the last thing I have is underwear and socks. So such a big thing, you know, when you talk about what are the things that you want? Well, and ideally we could wear the same clothes over and over and over, right? Have a couple sets, right, where you're able to wear one for a while, wash one, dry it, and then switch it out. I mean, typically, unless you're sweating, hardcore working, you could get away with wearing the same sweatshirt, t-shirt, pants, but baby, those underwear and them socks, they got to be changed daily. And maybe even that undershirt. Again, depending on how much work you're physically doing. Are you physically doing work? Are you physically hiking around, walking around? Obviously, you're sweating more, and you're going to need more of that stuff. But I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're just sitting around doing nothing. Hygiene-wise, you need to change those underwear and them socks every single day, right? And that's just to keep your feet as clean and dry as possible, because when your feet go, the rest of your body goes. And obviously, mentally, your lady parts, your men parts, you got to keep those in check, okay? So underwear and socks is my last thing on my list. I would love to hear just the extra things. You know, there's 1,001 things that we could add to this list. Eyewear is important. If you wear glasses, having eyewear, having all the backups to that, having an eyeglass repair kit, having a sewing kit is super important, having a fishing kit, hunting gear. You know, I could go on and on and on and on, okay? So here's a list. This is my 27. I just gave you a few more there at the end. You know, share with the group your guys' stuff, your must-haves. This could just be even a specific medicine or a specific item that you're like, hey, I got this. I think this is super important. I added this to my preps. We just added a new prep to our safety preps. That is that. I don't know if you've seen it on social media or commercials, but it's the blanket. It's the fire blanket, right? That if you have a kitchen fire or whatever, instead of having the fire extinguishers, which we have those as well, but it's a blanket, and we just hang it on the wall, but you would just rip it open and just lay it on top of the fire, and it makes it go out. It contains it. And so cool, another item we got, you know, to add to our safety items that we love, and it just hangs in this bag in the kitchen. And so it's just an added layer of safety on top of, you know, fire extinguishers and whatever, right? People panic and they're just like, you know what, you know, but the more options you give them, the better chance you have of being able to think through the situation and make it, okay? So I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys had a great holiday and you're having a great week. Ours is very, very slow right now since we had family leave, and you know, now the holidays are over. We're in much needed recovery time, right? And just doing a whole lot of relaxing and chilling, right? I'm not doing much else except watering my garden, you know, watering where I've been trying to grow some grass, right? Just doing low-key stuff over here. So you guys be well, do everything in love, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye. And